Hello everybody. I know I'm making another video again really soon, even after I said that I wouldn't be making that many videos this season. But today, on the 11th anniversary of 9/11, I feel obligated to address something that a certain type of argument that a lot of people really like to put out there when they really love to troll on 9/11, and that this is the argument that when I've noticed a lot of people who just like to talk shit about 9/11 and other ginormous disasters and stuff like that, they always bring out the phrase, they always bring out the argument of, oh, well, it happens all over the world. Oh, thousands of people dying in a massive, destruction incident in Washington, D.C., and New York City. Big fucking deal. It happens all across the world. And I despise this argument. I despise it. Wholeheartedly. I don't really have a lot of reasons why I despise it, so this video isn't really going to be that long. It's actually going to be fairly brief, but I just want to say that this argument is horse shit. And as for the reasons why I think it's horse shit, I want to lay down something for you. The people who state these things that, oh, well, people die in car crashes all the time in the US and all across the world. People die from smoking, AIDS, cancer. People die in wars and poverty from famine and disease and malaria and smallpox, whatever the fuck else there is out there. They just claim that nobody mourns or celebrates all these people dying. But my counter to that is, says who? How do you know that these people's deaths are not being celebrated or cherished even here in this country? Let me tell you something. I acknowledge that the 9/11 attacks were not the worst thing that has happened in the entire world. I acknowledge that completely. However, I don't believe that I don't believe that the trauma or the effect or the impact that they had has been diminished at all. I'll tell you something, when a country, a nation of any type experiences a huge disaster such as we've experienced with Pearl Harbor or with 9/11 or with the Cuban Missile Crisis or the fucking Watergate scandal or the AIDS virus or whatever else, we are always going to hold an event like that in extremely high regard. Are we the only people that do this? No, of course not. We are not the only people that do this. In Japan, every single year they have a big memorial for Hiroshima. In Ukraine, they have a memorial for Chernobyl. I believe I said this very clearly in my Killing Kids in Movies rant, that the loss of most human life in this world is a bad thing. It's not, and it's not something that everybody just completely neglects. Here's the thing that pisses me off, is that the death, people dying, it just perceived by so many people as being completely neglected, and it's only considered important when a massive, horrible event such as 9/11 or, the Columbine shooting or the Colorado shootings or whatever happens. And that's not the case. See, the reason why we care so much about 9/11 is because 9/11 was something that happened to us mainly because of us. It was an event that we could have easily prevented. It's a guilt that we have to carry with us. Same goes for any number of school shootings or public shootings that have been happening in this country or any other country. It happened within the confines of our own soil and our own political system. It's something that if we would have taken a completely different course of action, we probably could have prevented. You know, if at the time that 9/11 happened, if we decided to check all those planes a little bit more thoroughly and check the people that were getting onto those planes very, very thoroughly, except in the exact same way as we were now, then it probably wouldn't have happened. But we didn't do that. Because why? Because we never had anything before that happened in the exact same way. Before 9/11, we never had people flying airplanes into fucking buildings. Nobody could have predicted it. And thus it wasn't really that important. Because it just came out of nowhere. And yet, it happened within our own homeland. It's something that everybody could have prevented, but we didn't. Does that make it our fault? No, of course not. We can't predict everything that happens. Okay? You know, none of us have fucking glowing crystal balls that we can just look into and see the future with. Nobody can do that. And all the people who do that are con artists. So yeah, that is my argument to the whole "it happens all the time" argument. It's because humanity is unpredictable. Nobody in their own country can predict what type of catastrophe will happen. The whole notion that people only choose to care about human death when it's sponsored over almost every single media facet, including the news, the internet, what have you, in my opinion, is horseshit. It's not true. It's not. All the soldiers who have died fighting in the Middle East, all African children living in all those third world African countries who die, everybody mourns somebody on this planet. Nobody is neglected. So that's why events like these are really referenced and revered in such a ways, because these are things that could have been easily prevented, but we didn't prevent them. And so we have to look to them as a yardstick, as a standard, to help us prevent further stuff like this from happening. That is why it's pretty much impossible for us to get over 9/11. That's why it's impossible for us to get over Pearl Harbor. It's because that we could have solved it before it even occurred, but we didn't. It's something that we had the power to prevent, but we didn't. And we are constantly remembering that. Look at a couple superheroes that think that way. The Punisher, Batman. The Punisher, Frank Castle, his wife and his kids get murdered by gangsters. It's something he could have easily prevented. If he didn't go on a picnic that day, then that wouldn't have happened to him. Batman, if he was a little kid and he didn't decide to make his parents take him to a movie that night, then his parents wouldn't have been shot. But it's not something that we can be blamed for, because it's something that we could never foresee. Because we were all just trying to live. We were all just trying to live our lives according to what we were acclimated to, what we were aspiring to.